You learn more, you earn more. It is time for another episode of Ask Pat, where Downing-Frye Realty's Director of Corporate Training helps you become more productive, professional, and profitable in your real estate career. Please welcome Pat Patoki and Cindy Woolley.
Hello, Pat, one of my favorite ladies in the world.
Hi, Cindy. It's great to see you today.
Great to see you as well. You've been all over the place working with agents and training sessions, and man, this season has had you everywhere, I think.
It's been a long, short season. It's been a sort of a crazy time. Some people are extremely busy, others are not. And, the pace of everything is sort of exacerbated. So I think realtors are just plain exhausted.
Yeah.
I really do.
I get it for sure. And, it's been such a tumultuous market in terms of, okay, the pricing strategies and the legal changes, and then the impacts of, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So it's so important to stay on top of it because we want to keep you out of realtor jail, right?
Absolutely. And that's it. I discovered this week, and that is really one of our goals, to keep realtors out of realtor jail and brokerages out of court. And in this litigious society, it's just so important. That knowledge gives you such power that you lose when you do not possess the knowledge of what is going on, as you say, in the market and with just about everything.
And there's the urgency of like avoiding that negativity, right? Like, we don't want to go to jail, we don't want fines, we don't want court, we don't want any legal action. But then there's opportunities that when you when you learn it and you've got the knowledge, you can actually leverage these changes as opportunities because you are the influencer in the market. You're advocating for your clients appreciate it. So, it's a win-win situation.
It really is. And at this point, my bottom line statement to every realtor is really a question. Why would a customer hire you? A customer would hire you because of your knowledge and the value you add to the process. If the customer knows more than you, there's very little reason to hire you or compensate you for your skills, knowledge, and really covering of the market. So essentially, as you wouldn't hire a carpenter who had no skills, doesn't know what to do with a hammer, doesn't know what to do with a nail gun, you wouldn't hire a realtor. And it's becoming more apparent that with that, I'm not going to get hired, fear is also the fear of such increased liability that everyone is sort of worried today that if I know something and the other side doesn't, I can utilize that knowledge in a good or a bad way, ethical or unethical way, and I have to make sure that I protect my customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And condominiums are facing something similar with the new condominium forms, right? So
absolutely. The condos are really such an important component of our market here that we actually track sales, pendings, listings, etc., based on whether they're single-family homes or condominiums. So we watch those two markets, which generally march along in unison with some degree of difference between the two, depending on what's going on in the market right now. However, with condominiums, there have been just so many changes. We had the terrible situation with the collapse of the Champlain Towers in Surfside, which prompted Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to become frightened, just absolutely frightened about potential liability, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they're reaching, I just heard yesterday, they're reaching some sort of settlement in the millions and millions of dollars. Whether that is the end or just the beginning, I have no idea. All I know is that when things go wrong and realtors do not disclose certain facts that they should know or but maybe did not know, whether, can they be held liable? That is a question that is open. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware that there are significant changes. So when you're dealing as a realtor with a seller, if the seller is open to a financed sale, I think as soon as you take the listing, you need to contact the management of the association and find out if the association is willing to complete what's called the questionnaire, which has been changed based on the information gleaned from the Champlain Towers in Miami. Everyone is afraid to fill that out. If not filled out, lenders won't lend. So a finance deal may become more difficult. Associations are fearful of filling that out because of increased liability. Their insurance providers are fearful of that association condo questionnaire because it really talks about the structure and the validity of the structure. So, can we sell condos in this market? Yes. Are there challenges? Yes. We have to be aware of the challenges and we have to deal with them proactively way before we get to that point. So to have a finance deal close, that questionnaire is going to be pivotal. If that association has taken the position that they're not filling it out, you have to take that into consideration. We also locally have had a management company that the owner took off essentially with millions of dollars of association funds, and those also need to be disclosed if that association was affected, and people need to make a determination, and each association is different. Some were insured, some were partially insured, some perhaps were not. I'm not indicating that all were insured or not insured, but it depends on the individual association. So there's a lot of investigation that I would encourage realtors to do with sellers of condominiums at the listing point. Also, one of the key issues is that there are seller responsibilities with condos. There are 7 documents that by Florida law, and the Florida law is Florida Statute 718 for condos, different statute entirely for HOAs. We're talking only about condos today. We'll talk about HOAs in the future because people get those mixed up. Very different associations, very different Florida statutes, but with the condo statute of 718, essentially, there are 7 documents that by law, the seller is responsible to make certain that the buyer receives. It is not sufficient to have an attorney or a realtor sign a receipt and acknowledge receipt. It has to be the buyer. So we have to be really careful. And we have, of course, with Neighbor, we have a form for everything. You know, the old expression, have an app for this. We have a form for everything. That form is wonderful. I encourage all of our realtors to print it out. It lists the 7 forms. But I want to talk specifically about 2, which oftentimes can become problematic. One of the 7 forms is the most recent year-end financials. Many times associations will send the budget, which is a dream document. I call it a dream document because, we're going to get this, whatever. Make sure you have the most recent year-end financials. So for now, it should be December of 2021's financials. Make sure that is the actual document. Also, the condo governance form was changed for 2021 and 2022. And when I was teaching this week, many veterans were absolutely surprised to hear that. Now, here is the effect of that. 7 documents are required. the 7 documents that are required, very specifically required: articles of incorporation, declaration of condominium, frequently asked questions, the bylaws, and the rules and regulations, and the most recent year-end financials, and the governance form.
Mhm.
If those 7 documents are not the correct current documents, we could have a voidable contract, which
Mhm.
we don't want any realtor to have to deal with. The attorney with whom I presented this week has twice used the wrong form, the obsolete or former condo governance form,
Oopsie.
to blow up a deal that a buyer wanted out of. So please make sure the new condo governance form has a date at the bottom, 2021, 2022.
Mhm.
Please make sure that you are providing, and that your seller, I should say, is providing the accurate, complete form, because you really don't want a door out of the contract. So essentially, this, when you're working with selling a condo and you have the listing, make sure you get to the association right away, which will help you and the seller determine whether or not a finance deal would be able to be processed. And
Now,
number 2, the document. Make sure you have the correct documents.
so on number one, you're asking, or like if you're getting the condo questionnaire set up, and you take that time, you take that initial step of, all right, we need to find out if finance offers would even be viable. I mean, you can save so much hassle and so much
Sure.
trouble by getting that done.
I
But
think so. Yeah.
if here's that pivot point, though, right, in turning something into an opportunity, is why not take that in? If supposing you found out that the form is filled out and you're it's marketable to cash and financed offers, now you can take that to approach other potential sellers in that condo, and maybe build up a bigger book of business coming forward. It's just another great reason to reach out to people, right?
Absolutely. When you have that knowledge, how and when you can go forward. It's much better to know that at the beginning of a transaction than it
Mhm.
is to be so frustrated. And everyone becomes frustrated when there's an issue like this. Everyone becomes really angry. And what I have learned is when buyers and sellers get angry, generally they get angry at you.
Well, yeah, you're the industry expert, you're the real estate expert, and you should be able to anticipate these needs
Yep.
and advise accordingly. I mean, it seems very reasonable that they're relying on you for that information. So,
Absolutely. And it can, as you say, give you sort of an edge and differentiate you from others that do not have that information,
mhm.
so that you are comfortable and you sort of know what you're doing, and you can convey that with the confidence that we hope everyone has when you're working with your customers, so that you're not going to when you set their expectations, you're going to say, okay, we have to research Mr. Mrs. Seller. We have to research item number 1, item number 2, and then we'll be able to make some informed, knowledgeable decisions. That's really different from finding out, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for sure. Credibility killer if you're coming and going, oh, oops, I should have thought of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think setting expectations is really, really excellent. And when we're talking right now, we're talking in a video conference. I will tell you all that having a brief video that you can show your folks, or having something in writing,
Mhm.
so that increases the confidence people can have in you. I was told by a buyer recently who came from France that I took the bull by the horns and called this person on the telephone. Yes, it was expensive. I understand that. but it was so, so important to build the confidence and the rapport that grew out of that conversation. I had 2 conversations. After that, we went to text and email. And a video is even better because people can read your body language, they can see you. And I really think it's really extremely important to have some printed material and have some evidence and proof and support, and that plus knowledge really works in this environment. With condos right now, it is a difficult time, and we all understand that. Please understand that all owners of condos are upset by what happened in Miami. People were sitting in their condominiums and the building collapsed. It's just tragic, just tragic. And people constantly in our culture look for blame. Who has the liability for that? I've never seen a course of action when realtors were left out of that discussion of, oh, well, you should have known.
Oh, it definitely wasn't the realtor's fault. No, yeah. Oh, she was just so lovely. It couldn't have been her fault. No, your personality doesn't fly if you don't have the knowledge, right? You've got to be the professional, and you've got to be knowledgeable of these things. So
absolutely. And those of you that are using the NABOR library of forms know that we handle condos completely differently in alignment with the Florida law. So we don't require any type of disclosure, but it's the seller's responsibility 100% to supply the 7 current, accurate, complete documents to the buyer. But it's also the seller's responsibility to be able to have marketable title and sell the unit. And unfortunately, if an association is involved, because of the fear right now, make sure that you look into that at the beginning and not at the end of your work. Yeah.
Well, I know you have a blog, and you've got where you're going to be putting some information about the condominium documents that are the changes that are essential for everyone to know. Just a quick recap of the hot points in there, I think, would be really helpful.
Sure. In this blog, we also I also answer some common questions. So those folks that have some questions like who's responsible for what in a condominium, we're often asked that by our customers. What kind of insurance is needed and that sort of thing. But we really, in the blog, really recommend certain actions when working with sellers and buyers. And I think it can be helpful. My goal is and our goal at our company is to make sure our folks know more, and they therefore can earn more. And hopefully, if we increase their professionalism, their profitability and productivity will increase in tenfold. So that is really what we're totally committed to.
100% agree. When you learn more, you earn more, right, Pat?
Absolutely right. Words I love.
Well, that's fantastic. I will make sure that blog information is put in the video. So if you're watching the video and you want to know where to find it, just click on the information below the video. And I always encourage you to check your email on Wednesdays, where we send out our weekly newsletters, DF Agents. But you can also go to dfagents.com, and that's where we keep a backlog of resources and form documents and live chat. If you've got questions, our office and administrative staff are there to help guide you. But so many resources available to help protect you at Downing-Frye, and we're looking forward to growing with you in every market, right?
Absolutely. We not only survive but thrive in every type of market. We've done that for over 50 years, and it is our our single goal to make sure our folks can do that in the future.
Absolutely. All right, Pat. Well, you have a wonderful day, and
I will.
we'll see you next show.
Absolutely. Great. We're going to talk about homeowners insurance. And I know
Ooh.
condos and homeowners insurance are often confused, condos and homeowners. So we've separated them, and we're going to talk about homeowners next, HOAs. Have a great weekend, Cindy.
Thank you. You too.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Ask Pat. You can learn more at Downing-Frye.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn.